Yeah, we bout to bump, and hit 'em with the dirty headbanger, 10-5 on the Richter. Back again this time with new members. It's a Cane's thing, we bout to get with ya. Folks talking, ain't saying a whole lot. We bringing that straight fire to blow the whole spot. We keep the whole block locked like a fair pin, and turn the game upside down like a head spin.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling as we take a look at the betting side of things as the Miami Hurricanes prepare to host Michigan State in a big game at noon on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, and joined by Lee Sterling, the man himself, who is a renowned sports handicapper, renowned throughout the land as the guy that can give you the picks that'll make you money, as long as his beloved Miami Hurricanes aren't involved.
0-2 on the Canes this year.
I know, I had to throw that in. I figured we'd have a little fun here to start out. Lee, we talked last week about the Appalachian State game, and I thought that the tip that you gave out was phenomenal. I mean, you pointed out that when a team like Miami has a hard time against a team like Alabama on opening day and gets beaten that soundly, that it affects the betting line for the next week. And we were in agreement that the Canes being touchdown favorites over Appalachian State was probably not enough, that we thought Miami would win the game more convincingly than that. As it turned out, they only won by 2 points and actually were trailing in the fourth quarter. So let's start there. Your explanation for what we saw last weekend at Hard Rock.
Well, I mean, Manny will tell you that Appalachian State was better than we thought, and I thought they were solid. You know, they didn't beat themselves, but they didn't do anything really to win the game. The only thing that surprised, I think, everyone was the kick return for a touchdown. Don't see that happen too often against Miami teams, and that, I think, probably killed the wager. But in all honesty, I have not given either game to my clients. We're having fun. There's, 78 games out there. And I'm probably not going to give it to my clients this week. I will tell you if I am ever, going to give it to my clients. But you see, if you listen and you read between the lines what's going on this week, they have an open competition, 2 spots, really, offensive line. You see the defense not getting a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback. I mean, wasn't like – now, they did get rid of the ball quickly. There weren't too many long passing routes that Appalachian State tried on Miami. But you got to get more pressure on the quarterback. I mean, there's some things I like. We're seeing young receivers develop, but they got to use the tight end more. We got to get more pressure on the quarterback. We've got to have the offensive line. I'm not saying they have to be great. They've just got to be better. I mean, you can't have a couple guys grading out every week, in the bottom 10% in college football as far as offensive linemen. Linebackers have got to be better. It's just shocking that we have, I think, 9 kids in the recruiting class for next year? Is that what they have?
Right now, yeah, I believe that's the number, yeah.
And I think they have 1 offensive lineman and 1 defensive lineman. I'm sure they're eventually going to get some other kids, but you can't have uneven classes like that. Stevenson looks great at cornerback and returning punts. I mean, What a find he is. And Jalen Rivers looks good, defensive end, Chauncey Rivers. But just think that they got to keep getting better. And this is a tough test. I mean, we thought before the year, if you looked at Michigan State, anything, like was going to be last year, that this was going to be a pretty easy game. And this is a game where the betting line is 6.5. And the question everyone's saying is, why is it so high? I mean, I'm pretty good at estimating lines before they come out. So what I do is every Sunday night before the lines come out, I estimate the lines. And I'm usually, unless a line is some of these 25, 35-point lines in college football, I'm within a point and a half. I thought the line was going to be 3.5. So what they're telling you is, and the line should be probably 3.5. They feel that Miami, the public's going to keep betting them, and the public still has not caught on to this Michigan State team yet. So that's where we stand. It is a big game. I mean, every game's a big game, but I think they need to come out and look good. I don't know whether it's going to be a 3, a 7, a 10, or a 14 or 17-point win, but they've got to look good. And if they don't, then there's more questions, and it's going to hurt the recruiting. And then people are going to start saying, where are we? I mean, we should be further along at this point.
Yeah, well, that's already started. Now, we talked about 0-2. I'm 0-2 also. I've totally misread the way this team was going to show up for the season. I thought that they could at least be somewhat competitive against Alabama. I thought the offense would be way further along than what it is. The defense has been about what I expected, but I really felt like the offense would be way further along than what it is right now. And they're really struggling. I mean, they're struggling up front. They can't get any consistency going. There's mental errors on the perimeter that they're working through. So, you put it all together, and it's just not the recipe for great offense. And then on the defensive side, way too many mental busts. I mean, they're fighting through mental busts. So they got to clean it up. Style points do matter right now, and people have not been happy with the style points that they've seen. All right, so Michigan State, we talked a little bit about them a minute ago, and they're a team that has actually been the opposite of Miami in the sense that they've shown up better than what people expected. Your thoughts on just what you've seen of the Spartans so far and how you see Saturday's game playing out?
So they used the transfer portal to their advantage, probably better maybe than anyone in the country in the offseason. They added a running back, Kenneth Walker, who has been a revelation. I think he has like 326 yards, 8.8 yards per carry. No, I'm sorry, 321 yards rushing. But, I mean, this guy is averaging 10.7 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. They didn't have a running back the last couple of years. They didn't have a quarterback. They were trotting out Rocky Lombardi, who's now, I think, at one of the directional Michigan schools. And he was throwing interception. I mean, he would have like 2 good games a year and 7 bad ones. He was awful. So the kid Thorne now is competent. I wouldn't say they pushed the ball down the field as much as they have in the past. But then again, that they threw a lot of interceptions in the past, and I think they're playing within themselves. Now on defense, what they do is they do a lot of 4-3 cover 2. So they're going to force King, I think, to run the ball quite a bit in this game. You got to use the tight end. There's a seam where Will Mallory could have a big game if they employ him correctly. So you're going to see that cover 2. They very rarely use cover 3, cover 0. Probably 90% of the time will be cover 2. And there's going to be a couple seams for Mallory to have a big game here. And just got to be patient. They just try to limit the big play. But their special teams have been better than expected. And they're not going to beat themselves. Now, the question is, will the heat on Sunday be a factor?
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I think it might a little bit. I mean, you can't replicate it. I mean, there's people can say, "Oh, we practiced in fall practice; it was hot," but there's nothing like the Miami Heat. Mid-late September, we've seen a lot of teams. Just the second half just falter. So I think that Miami's going to win the game. They should win the game. If they don't, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be disastrous. There'll be a meltdown. I think 6.5 points here. I think it's a trap line. So I will say this. The right side is Michigan State. I'm going to predict for the show 27-24 final for Miami.
Close game.
Yeah, but I will say this. It wouldn't shock me if Miami wins the game by 7, 10, 14 points because they're daring you. They're begging you to play Michigan State here. So I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a good barometer, even a better barometer than last week because it's a physical team and well-coached. Mel Tucker, I mean, he's getting the best out of these guys. They have a couple other transfers on defense from Tennessee, from Florida, and we might have to rev up the transfer portal again next year to fill some holes.
Okay, so the weather forecast is for 90 degrees.
Right.
That would be a great thing for the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
But there's also some rain in the forecast for Saturday, and it's a little early. We'll have to see how the weather forecast develops here in the next few days. But if it rains, I think that starts to favor Michigan State with their power run game and their offensive line. So Miami has to hope no rain, hope that sun is out, beaten down on Saturday. And if that happens, Michigan State should start to wear down in the second half, and that would allow the Hurricanes, I agree with you, to walk away with a hard-fought but well-earned victory. So we'll see what happens.
We only have one running back, really, who's played extensively. That could come into play, and he hasn't shown to be a difference maker. Not on the level of Kenneth Walker for Michigan State. So we're going to have to do the rain dance before the game. We want a fast track.
The anti-rain dance.
Right, the anti-rain dance. We used to have my girls do the snow dance. We were going out West Coast skiing. We needed more snow. No rain, and we
lots
need
of heat.
Hot. I mean, we want it 95 degrees if possible.
All right, last week was week 1 of the NFL season, obviously big college games.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how you did last week.
Back and forth, a little better than worse. We hit our biggest game. I rate my games for my clients from 10 to 50 units. We hit a 50-unit play. I don't think I've ever had one before in the NFL week 1. Loved Carolina for the first half. It looked like it was going to be a walkover. I think Jets had like 3 or 4 first downs in the first half. Every time I looked at the game, it was like 2nd and 18, 3rd and 21. Braxton Berrios was the only bright spot. He caught 5 for 55 in the game. Amazing, but Carolina didn't put him away, missed an extra point, held on to win 19-14. So sweat job, but a win's a win. And, as long as you have a winning day, which we did. Also, my biggest play was Buffalo college football. They ended up winning and they fumbled the ball once into the end zone. So wagering, it's always not easy. I mean, once in a while I get a game where it's wire to wire, but so often you got to sweat them out. But it was a fun weekend. I mean, Florida State's defeat was absolutely incredible. I mean, if you think we're mad at Manny Diaz sometimes, we haven't lost. I think Miami hasn't lost since FAMU and like 78, something like that.
One of those games, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, why they were not?
I mean, I guess FIU and
but they were Division One. They're Division One.
Right. Yeah. They don't qualify.
Jacksonville State was not a Division One team. They're an FCS team. 6 seconds to go on their own 39. Jacksonville State, 61 yards away from the touchdown, and they weren't in a prevent defense. He made the excuse, said something like, they had one timeout left. Well, there were 6 seconds left. And unless they threw a 5 and out, even if they did, that wasn't going to change the game plan. That was one of the most epic meltdowns we've ever seen. So I thought it was a fun week in college football, but the NFL was incredible. Why do I say that? It started with the Tampa Bay-Dallas game, which was great. The 2 biggest games were exciting games, Cleveland and Kansas City, and Pittsburgh and Buffalo, which the Miami fans love seeing Buffalo losing week 1 and that upset to Pittsburgh. And then Monday night was the opening game with fans for the Las Vegas Raiders, and they pulled out an overtime win. So the NFL went perfect. Probably shift back to college football this week, and some great games around the country, including the Florida and Alabama game. Should be a great game.
All right, so Miami, Michigan State. It sounds like you're kind of on the fence there a little bit because of the line. But if you got to make a pick, and it's Michigan State plus 7,
plus 6.5, 6.5. 6.5.
Which way are you going on that game?
I think Miami will win the game 27-24.
Okay, so take Michigan State in the points.
Take Michigan State plus the points is my on-air selection, but honestly, I'm not giving it out to my clients, and it wouldn't shock me if Miami wins by 7 or 10 points because I think they're begging you. I look at lines sometimes. So in the NFL, the number 5, if a team's laying 5, the favorite covers like 38, 39%. It's the biggest, like they're begging you to play that team. They're a little bit better. They're at home usually. Stay away from it. This is one of those games. Stay away, but for the sake of the show, I'm going to go with Michigan State plus the 6.
Florida, Alabama.
Yeah. So this is a game where I think the public's going to be on Alabama and the sharps are going to be on Florida. Dan Mullen has not beaten Nick Saban the last 10 tries, 0-10. Last time he beat him was the 2000, I think it was like an 8 SEC title game. He was the offensive coordinator for Urban Meyer, and Tim Tebow was the quarterback. But he's covered 5 of the last 8 times against Alabama. So the game is being played in the Swamp. I think it's a big advantage for Florida. I think having a mobile quarterback helps them also. We don't know the Anthony Richardson, not 100%, but if he's 90, 95%, he's going to give it a go. He and Emory Jones are dual threat quarterbacks, which I think Miami should have used more. So I think that Dan Mullen's going to come up with some plays in the game plan. I think it's going to give Alabama some trouble. Also, the defensive coordinator, Todd Grantham, will dial up some blitzes and show some different defenses that might give Bryce Young some problems. So Alabama's the best team talent-wise. We know that. We've seen them. But they were also a 2-touchdown favorite in the SEC title game last year in December, and they only won the game by 6 points. So I think Florida has some receivers that can do some damage here in this game. I think the mobile quarterback will give Alabama some problems. I think 15.5 is a little too heavy. I think Bama's going to escape 35-31. I'm going to take the 15 points here, 15.5 in Florida.
Wow, that's some line. People, I know Miami's going to be watching that game with interest because obviously they want to see how Florida stacks up with Alabama in comparison to how Miami did. So that'll be very interesting. All right, give us a couple more of your best college games this week.
So I like Florida State, believe it or not, against Wake Forest. Wake Forest is one of those teams, if you follow them as an underdog, they seem to play better. They have a really good offense. Quarterback Hartman can spray it around, he can move, but their defense is not very good. And just think that Florida State's going to come back. It may not be pretty here, but Noles are also 7-1 against the spread, avenging in the ACC when they're a dog of less than 10 points. So I think they're going to have an up and down season. Don't think that Wake has the skill level on the back end on defense to hold down Florida State. And I think this is the type of quarterback that can give Wake Forest problems, similar to their quarterback, Hartman. Mackenzie Milton can make plays and just move the ball meticulously down the field. So I like Florida State here, plus the 5. I have them winning that game, something like 38-35. It'll be a barn burner. Wake Forest never pulls away from anyone. So another game with state and local and national appeal. And then probably my strongest game in the South is going to be the Penn State-Auburn game. Penn State, another team, great underdog team, but as a favorite, I don't see it. You love watching the whiteout at Penn State, right, Gary?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
You're thinking, okay, pretty good home team. Well, not. They're 3-8 against the spread. Last
Really?
11 games at home. So just not a real good home team. I don't know whether it's the pressure. Teams get up for them, but their quarterback, I had them and Sean Clifford in that upset of Wisconsin. But here I think Bo Nix is probably has the edge at quarterback. Two good running backs in Bigsby and also Hunter. Bigsby was hurt a lot last year, but he should be able to play in this game and get 15, 20 carries. Good running team. I think the line play may be a little bit better for Auburn than Penn State here. And Bo Nix can move around and make things happen. He hasn't beaten a real good team, but he's played Bama twice, Georgia twice, Florida and LSU, and been in almost every game. So I like Auburn here, plus the 6. I think they win this game outright in a low-scoring game, something like 24-21.
Yeah, Franklin to me is like one of the he's one of the most overrated coaches in college football, in my opinion. He really has not done a ton. They're already rumoring him for the USC job, and I didn't, I thought that before you told me what his record is against the spread at home. Not great. I'm sure the Penn State fans aren't real happy about that one. All right, you got any other games, Lee, or is that going to go for this week?
Yeah, one more game I like is Boise State. They're going to be at home, and they're taking on Oklahoma State, who Miami saw in the bowl game. So Oklahoma State lost their top two receivers, Wallace and Dylan Stoner. They lost Chubba Hubbard. They just don't have – you think of them as having offensive talent. They just don't anymore. And their quarterback has been, banged up a little bit. Their offensive line's nothing special. They lost some guys on defense. Boise State, I think, is going to start having that dominance at home that they used to have. So I was listening. Sometimes you don't get much out of interviews, but Hank Bachmeier, the quarterback for Boise State, said he's really happy for the first time and feels it really a comfort level with Andy Avalos, who played there and then went to Oregon. He was the defensive coordinator there and came back to be the head coach. So seems like they have things going. The first half, they looked great against Central Florida. They were dominating. So I think that he's got one of the top receivers in the country now. And only thing missing is a running game. Don't have a real good running game, but Oklahoma State has nothing. They should have lost that game last week to Tulsa. They escaped that game. They had a kickoff return for a touchdown against them also in the fourth quarter, which greased the skids for them. Then they also recovered. Tulsa did a fumble, but one of the players on the fumble recovery had his foot out of bounds. So Tulsa was the better team last week. Sometimes you just can't look at scores. You got to watch the game, got to watch what's happening up front. And Oklahoma State really is not good in any level anymore. I don't know how they were hitting on some guys. I thought they were doing a good job recruiting and coaching guys up, but this year, this is not going to be one of the better Oklahoma State teams. So I like Boise at home laying 3. I think they can win this game by 2 touchdowns, something like 34-20.
All right, he's Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports. You see the website and the phone number at the bottom of the screen, ParamountSports.com, and the 800 number, 800-400-9741. If you call him, he's liable to answer the phone himself. Would love to have you as part of his stable of customers around the country who get his picks every week. And then you can always come back to You Bet CaneSport, where we make Lee pick the Hurricane game, whether he likes it or not.
And then also we do everything. So we do UFC and done extremely well there. I rate my selections from 10 to 50 units. First time ever, we have 2 50-unit selections in UFC on Saturday night. So after the game, and you bet all the football, we got a big card in the UFC. So just check out the site on the purchase picks page. You can get football, UFC, baseball. We're having a really strong season. Last year, not only were we number 1 in the country in football, combined college football and the NFL, we were number 1 in hockey, and that starts up in less than a month. So we do it all. My staff, they're working in the next room right now on the UFC card. They love the UFC card, and baseball already won a game earlier today. So ParamountSports.com, one-stop shop. And
I think we're 30 days away from sports books. I mean, I don't know what's going on at the Hard Rock, but we're supposed to be 30 days away from sports books in South Florida. So we'll see what happens there. Right. All right, Lee, thank you, as always, for your time this week. We'll check back in with you next week. That's Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, and you have been watching You Bet CaneSport. We'll see you next week, everybody.